Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Adhikari Prabhuji. Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
So,
Pavaneshwar Prabhu has joined. So
okay.
I'm going to make Jaikumar Prabhu the host. So Jaikumar Prabhu, did I make you the host on the right screen?
Yeah, I have left that mobile, so I'm I think this is
so
right.
Prabhu, can you make Pavaneshwar Prabhu and myself the co-host? Make
Yes.
Pavaneshwar Prabhu the co-host first. Hare Krishna, Pavaneshwar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Oh, so happy to see you. Hare Krishna.
Hare. You are
Thank
always
you.
happy. You are always happy, and you make everyone happy.
No, because I am in your association.
No. Whoever comes in your association. Okay. I think I am host now.
Yeah, you are co-host, Prabhu.
Yeah, I'm getting all the that acceptance.
No,
Correct,
so you.
correct. Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah.
No problem. That is not a problem.
Yeah. So now we have devotees have joined, and we are also live on Facebook, Prabhu, on ISKCON Atlanta Facebook page. So thank you so much, Pavaneshwar Prabhu. So give me 1 second, Prabhu. I want to show something. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you so much for joining. We are very, very fortunate and happy and excited that Pavaneshwar Prabhu is there with us today to teach us about the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And we are supposed to study this chapter properly in this Shri Purushottam Adhik Mas, very, very auspicious month. And this chapter of Bhagavad Gita teaches us about Purushottam Yoga. So it's a very important chapter, especially for this month. And we have been trying to read it every day, but I could never understand it. And last time when Pavaneshwar Prabhu spoke about the first 2 verses of this chapter, it was a revelation. Actually, Sandeep Prabhu and myself were talking, and we were discussing how our understanding of this chapter has improved so much just by hearing for 1 hour from Pavaneshwar Prabhu. So I request Pavaneshwar Prabhu to finish this chapter. He can take as many sessions as he wants, but we have started in the auspicious Shri Purushottam Adhik Mas. So Prabhuji will be teaching us, and I just want to show something to all of you, dear devotees. Can everybody see my screen? Let me make spotlight. Spotlight, huh?
Yeah, we can
Now,
see.
can everybody see?
Yeah, Bhagavad Gita.
So Pavaneshwar Prabhu is a very senior brahmachari at Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Mandir in Mumbai, and he
Senior,
has
nahi,
studied
junior only. Prabhuji,
every
I'm not senior.
compared to me, you are junior, Prabhu. Compared to me, you are senior.
No, no.
Every
Compared to everyone, I am junior.
Hare Krishna. Every senior devotee feels that they are junior. So
No, no, no.
you have proved that you are senior. Mm. Sudama Prabhu, our stalwart Japa Acharya, Brahmachari from Radha Gopinath, he says, senior is one who has seen through the ear. Senior. So you have heard so much, you have studied so much, you have seen through your ears. So you are senior. So Pavaneshwar Prabhu is a very wonderful, humble, very learned, very intelligent brahmachari from Shri Radha Gopinath Mandir, and he spent 2 years at Govardhan Eco Village deeply studying Srimad Bhagavatam and Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he holds the Bhakti Vaibhav degree, and he's a Bhakti Vaibhav and Bhakti Shastri teacher, and he is an expert on Vedic cosmology from the 5th canto, and he has written 2 books that I know of, and I want to show them. These books are available. You can contact me if you want to buy these books or read these books. The first book is Bhagavat Cosmology by Pavaneshwar Prabhu. It explains the structure of the universe based on the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Very important for our systematic understanding. And this second book, which he published last Kartik, is called A Seeker's Journey into Bhagavatam. This is also by Pavaneshwar Prabhu, and it's a book that gives a very nice study guide, gives the flow, the 10 important topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, Atra Sarga Visarga, all that. Very nicely it has explained important verse, important flow of all the cantos. Very nicely he has explained in this book. So these 2 books I highly recommend, dear friends. And without further ado, I request our esteemed speaker, His Grace Pavaneshwar Prabhu, to please take over and enlighten us. Prabhu, there is no time limit. You can speak for as long as you like. And then regarding the third session, I will coordinate with you. So thank you very much. Let us welcome Pavaneshwar Prabhu by 3 times loudly chanting, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. So let me mute everybody, and then at the end, Jaikumar Prabhu, you can give permission for them to unmute. But right now, I made the settings in such a way that nobody can unmute, so that there is no disturbance in the class. And now let me unmute. Pavaneshwar Prabhu is already unmuted. Okay, so I will mute myself. Pavaneshwar Prabhu, take it from here. It's all yours. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for allowing me to serve all of you in a small way, whatever little way I could. So we'll have the brief offering of prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakammalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradhayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Saptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaham Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome to all for our discussion on 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, entitled as the yoga of the Supreme Person or the Purushottama Yoga. So during the last Sunday, we were discussing uh, this for the first two verses. We just started the chapter. It is one of the very important chapters of the entire Bhagavad Gita. So whatever these 20 verses are talking about is elaborately explained in many chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Bhagavad Gita is like a sutra form, gives the highest philosophy in few words. So it is further elaborated in Srimad Bhagavatam. When you get time, you can refer to those sections of Srimad Bhagavatam. So in the 14th chapter, at the end, being requested by Arjuna, so Arjuna requested that, my dear Lord, please tell me how a person can overcome the influence of three modes of material nature. For which Lord Krishna mentioned that, Mamchayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. By executing avyabhicharini bhakti, basically ananya bhakti, without any deviation, without any ulterior motives, when bhakti is executed, bhakti is performed unto the lotus feet of Supreme Personality of Godhead, sagunan samatityetan, one will be able to overcome the influence of three modes of material nature and attain or enter into the nirguna platform. Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One enters into the nirguna platform, where one enters into the Brahmabhuta platform. So then the hearer, whether it may be Arjuna or any one of us, might immediately ask the question that, my dear Lord, what is this? I am worshipping you, I am serving you, you are the personality of Godhead, you are a form made up of Sachidananda Vigraha. And how can I, by worshipping you, by rendering bhakti unto you, will get the status of Brahman? Aap to Bhagavan hai. You are Bhagavan. How will I get Brahman status? So it seems little contrary. So for which Lord Krishna says, Brahmano hi pratishtaham amrutasya avyayasya cha. My dear Arjuna, don't worry. I am the base of that Brahman which you are thinking about. It's me, or it's upon me that Brahman is resting on. So I am the source of that Brahman. I am the shelter for that Brahman. And in fact, in relation to the process of Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, so every process has a particular destination. Generally, the Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga practitioners, they are always aspiring to enter into Sayujya. They are always aspiring to enter into Brahman. So that is their end point of their journey. But for devotees, having entered into Brahman, crossing through Brahman, then they enter into Vaikuntha Lokas. So the starting point is Brahman. For devotees, Brahman is starting point, then they go it further, all the way up to Golak Vrindavan. But for the practitioners of Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Brahman is kind of end point. So in order to include all of them, Lord Krishna mentions Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. Even they also need to practice bhakti as a secondary element. So in that regard, Lord Krishna mentioned that. So now, okay, my dear Lord, okay, I'll accept. You are the shelter for Brahman, you are the base of Brahman, that is fine. But what is this material world made up of three gunas? What is this samsara made up of three gunas? That I am supposed to overcome, from which I am supposed to do exit. So from where this material world has started, from where it has begun, and then who is that jiva who is supposed to surpass the influence of three modes of material nature and enter into Brahman platform? Why that jiva is supposed to leave behind this material world and enter into transcendence? What is the reason? And then finally, what is that Brahman you are talking about? Brahmano hi pratishtanam. And who are you? The shelter of Brahman. So anticipating all such questions, Lord Krishna speaks 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So in the first two verses, Lord Krishna talks about the material world with a metaphor of Ashwattha Vriksha, with a metaphor of a peepal tree and also a banyan tree, a combination of both peepal tree and banyan tree. So in the first two verses talks about different parts of the universe in comparison to different parts of the Ashwattha tree. So all those things we have already mentioned, we will not get into details. So having mentioned about the details of this tree elaborately, so now Lord Krishna describes about the purpose of knowing this tree very well. Though it is already mentioned in the first verses, Yastam Vedasa Vedavit, He who understands the Ashwatha tree, the structure of the material world, will understand that the purpose of knowing is to not to stay here, but instead to get out of this world. So that is being elaborated in these two verses. So I will recite the verses. All of you also can recite along with me. You don't have to repeat after me. Na rupamaste hatatopalabhyate nanto na chadir na cha sampratishta ashvattamenam suvirudamulam asangashasrena drudena chitva tatapadam tat parimargitavyam यस्मिन् गताना निवर्तन्ति भूया तमेव चाद्यं पुरुषं प्रपद्ये यथा प्रवृत्ति प्रसुता पुराणी. So here in these two verses, Lord Krishna gets into more details about this tree. So this basically Lord Krishna says, this is a funny shloka. Narupa masseha tatopa labhyate. Nanto nachadir nacha sampratishta ashvattamenam suviruda moolam. So ashvattamenam, this tree which is known as ashvatta, this ashvatta tree, suviruda moolam, it is deep rooted. One meaning of suviruda moolam is it is deep rooted, it is very difficult to uproot. The second meaning is its roots are everywhere. Suviruda moolam, when you see it as a banyan tree, its roots are everywhere. There are secondary roots all over. They are spread all over. So having mentioned about the nature of the root of this tree, which is strong and deep rooted, which are spread everywhere, then he says that na rupam asyeha. Iha, asya iha. Iha refers to in this material world exclusively in the Manushya Loka. In the second verse it talked about that this Ashwatha tree becomes banyan tree, especially in Manushya Loka. So because of the nature of the banyan tree, which had the special nature to give secondary roots, which eventually become different trees, that is only possible in Manushya Loka, because in Manushya Loka the human beings have multiple desires, and every desire has the capacity to become into different body. Every desire that we make within our mind during our lifetime, and every desire will sprout and become a different tree. Tree is nothing but we get into different body, and we have to go through in that particular life form. So that's how. So narupam asyeha. In this material world, especially in the human planet, in the Bhuloka, in the Bharatavarsha, we cannot understand the actual form of this plant, this tree. Na anto, we cannot understand where it ends. Na chadir, we cannot understand where it has begun, when it has begun. Na cha sampradishta, on whom it is actually resting upon, on whom it is actually depend upon. All these things we cannot understand. So like that, Lord Krishna goes ahead. First we will discuss these three lines, then we will go to the next part of the shloka. So the meaning is, the real form of the tree cannot be perceived in the world of men. Narupa masya iha. The world of men means Bharatavarsha. Because of the great variety of opinions, such as, here there are different philosophers, and every philosopher has different philosophy to tell. Some of them are, the world is real. Some say the world is real. Some say the world is false. Brahma Satya, Jagan Mithya. Some say the world is eternal. Some say the world is temporary. So we have n number of philosophies in this world, and we don't know what is right, what is wrong. So that's how we cannot understand the real nature of this world. And then much more than that, we cannot understand its end because it seems unlimited. We don't know when it is going to end. And one cannot understand its beginning also, because it seems to have no beginning. So even though we try to understand where it has begun, it is very difficult to come to the original starting point. One cannot understand its shelter, na sampratishta, or its support. So these are the various attributes of this world. One cannot understand what it is. because of lack of real knowledge. We don't have complete understanding, complete knowledge of this material world. So these are the various attributes of this material world. So I'll try to give one example about the understanding what exactly Lord Krishna is trying to tell. If I take example of myself, I myself as a person have two principal qualities. I as Atma have some qualities, and I am being living in this material body have another set of qualities, another set of characteristics. So in relation to my body, this body is the son of so and so parents, grandparents, great grandparents, like that. I can trace back the family lineage in which I was born. Maybe few generations I can go, but at least even after talking to many people, inquiring many people, I cannot understand where my dynasty has begun, where my lineage has begun. It is very difficult to understand kahan se shuru hua. Even if for a grasa, they will have their children, and they will have their children like grandchildren, great grandchildren, like that. It goes on, and one it is very difficult for a person to understand where this family lineage is going to end. So na anta na adir. It is very difficult to understand where this family lineage has begun and where it is going to end. And when I take it myself to be Atma, as Atma, who was I in the previous life, and previous to that previous, and previous to previous, previous to previous, and even the next future lifetimes, who will be I? So in which species I am going to be born, in which species I am going to be performing various activities, it is very difficult to trace out. Even if we happen to visit expert astrologer in Tamil Nadu, some places, there are many expert astrologers, they can actually trace out our previous 7 lifetimes. They can also predict our future lifetimes also to some extent. But it is very difficult to go to the starting point where we have started our journey in this material world. So in that way, it is very difficult to understand where our journey has begun, where it is going to end, where our family journey has begun, where our family journey is going to end. So it is very difficult to understand the true nature of this tree. So thus, since we cannot understand its beginning, we can understand this where it is going to end, it seems eternal. So because this Ashwatha tree is not understood, and is the cause of useless vows and actions, one should cut it down with the strong acts of detachment. Ashwattamenam suviruda moolam asanga shasrena dridena chitva. The meaning is, because this Ashwatha tree is not understood and is the cause of useless vows and actions. From a normal person's understanding, people in general, whoever living in our neighborhood, everywhere, throughout the year, they have so many vows to they undertake. They have so many vratas to perform. Shravana Mas, there are vratas. Navaratri, there are vratas. Ganesh Chaturthi, there are vratas. So like that, there are so many vows and so many vratas. The reason is they want to get betterment in their life. They want to fulfill their desires. Like there are so many reasons will be there. They want their children to have good health, admission in good schools or colleges, or good education, or getting good job, or getting good life partner for marriage purpose. So in order to fulfill such kind of family related desires, they undertake so many vows. They undertake so many vratas. In Mumbai also, I happened to see from so many years, during Shravana Mas, during Navaratri, during Ganesh Chaturthi, all the temples are full. Every Grihastha will come out of their home and they visit temple every day early in the morning. Like that, they undertake so many vows. In South India, we have this Mandala Diksha. They take Diksha for 41 days in order to worship Ayyappa, in order to worship Lord Shiva, in order to worship Hanumanji. So like that, various dikshas they take. So these are all, that is how the world goes on. So that's why it says that because this Ashwatha tree is not understood and it is the cause of useless vows and actions, one should cut it down with a strong acts of detachment. Asanga Shasrena. Asanga is detachment, Shastra is weapon. So sharpened by repeated discrimination, Drudena Chitva. Not a very hard or very blunt. It should not be a blunt axe, but very sharp axe. The sharpness of this axe is because of repeated discrimination, understanding what is what, with the knowledge of things as they are, gained in devotees association. How we will get proper discrimination? How we will get how we can develop the weapon of detachment? This is by gaining proper knowledge of things as they are, proper knowledge of what is material world, what is spiritual world, what is the body, what is Atma. That kind of understanding, as Lord Krishna describes in the 13th chapter. What is Kshetra? Who is Kshetrajna? What is Jnanam? What is Jnayam? And who is Purusha? Who is Prakriti? With that proper understanding, and that Prakriti in itself has three modes of material nature which actually bind us at various levels, at various steps, and understanding of how three modes are actually interacting within themselves and influencing us, that knowledge will help us develop proper discrimination. So that discrimination will act as the weapon, sharpened weapon of weapon. Knowing that detachment is the weapon to cut down the tree, which is only cause of the suffering of all jivas, one should cut down the tree with the detachment. One should look for the treasure situated at the base of the root. Tata padam tat parimargitavyam yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuya. So why one should cut down? Because there is no need to know about this tree elaborately. There is we will not come to an end about knowing this tree. Ultimately, it is cause of misery only. Dukhalaya ashashvatam. So from that point of view, Lord Krishna is in that with sharpened discrimination, develop the weapon of detachment. With that weapon of detachment, cut down the tree at the very root. And then what to do? Go beyond the root and search about the treasure which is there below the root. Of course, for the upside down tree, the root, the treasure is located above the root. That is called tat padam. Tada padam tat parimargitavyam. Padam tat parimargitavyam. Parimargitavyam means kindly search. Tat padam, that treasure which is located below the root for a normal tree, but for this upside down tree, that is above the root. That is Brahman or Vaikunta. From the point of view of Nishkama Karma Yogis, Jnana Yogis and Ashtanga Yogis, the treasure is Brahman. From the point of devotees, the treasure is Vaikunta. So this is the upside down tree. So here is the root where Lord Brahma is situated, and here are all the branches. The upper branches are the location of the Devatas, Rishis, Gandharvas, Yakshas, Kinnaras, Kimpurushas, etc. And the middle branches are for human beings. The lower branches are for animals, birds, plants, and also for asuras, etc. And the fruits of the tree are dharmartha, kama, moksha, economic development, religiosity, sense gratification, etc. So in that way, the secondary roots are the desires of the living entities. So initially the jiva has small desire for which the jiva comes to this material world, and one's tenure in the material world will continue based on one's further desires. So this entire tree is depend upon desire. Desire is the cause of this material tree. And then, having cut down the tree at the very root, one should go beyond the root and search for Tat Padam. For Jnanis, Yogis, and Nishkama Karma Yogis, the Tat Padam is Brahman, and for devotees, the Tat Padam is Vaikunta. Even when I visited Atlanta, we were discussing from 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam about the 14 planetary systems. I think we discussed all the way up to moon planet. We could not go ahead further, but if would have gone little bit ahead. So after describing Satyaloka within our universe, after describing the 14 planetary systems, and before touching the universal layer, just above Satyalok and before touching the upper universal layer, in that area, there is actually one Vaikunta, in which generally the Manvantara Avatara resides, whoever is the Manvantara Avatara for a particular Manvantara period, he generally resides in that Vaikunta which is located just above Brahmaloka or just above Satyaloka. That is, the Satyaloka or Brahmaloka are located at the place of the roots. Just above the roots is Vaikunta. In fact, in Bhagavatam, we have various references about this Vaikunta. The four Kumaras, with a desire to have darshan of Lord Vishnu, have entered only this Vaikunta, which is located just above Satyaloka. And Durvasa Muni, seeking protection from Sudarshan Chakra of Lord Vishnu, which was guarding Ambarish Maharaj. So, Durvasa Muni entered into this Vaikunta, hoping that Lord Vishnu will save him. And Bhrigu Muni, with an intention to test Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu, among these three, who is the most peaceful personality, Prashanta Murti. So Bhrigu Muni also entered into this Vaikunta, which is located just above the Satyaloka, and he kicked on the chest of Lord Vishnu. And that seeing this particular event, Mother Lakshmi felt very much offended, and she came down to Kolhapur in order to atone for her offense, that she took part in the offensive act of Bhrigu Muni. So that's how the Kolhapur became famous. And searching after Mother Lakshmi, Lord Vishnu came down to Tirumala hills, and he began to perform austerities there. And that's how Tirumala also became famous. So these pastimes are connected to this Vaikunta, which is located just above Brahmaloka. And that Tat Padam refers to that Vaikunta. So in that regard. So here there is an explanation about the desire. Okay. Sangha means desire for sense objects. The only purpose for Jiva comes to this material world is to enjoy the five tanmatras. All our endeavors are to experience these five tanmatras in this material world. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa and Gandha. Whatever enjoyment we can think of in this material world, it is nothing but the combination of these five things. Sometimes one of these five may be more, the others may be less. But in total, all our material enjoyment, the so-called material enjoyment, is nothing but experiencing these five things. People go to different restaurants in order to have the satisfaction of their taste buds. People go to different scenic places in order to have the pleasure of seeing beautiful things. And people go to different cinema halls or some programs in order to experience the hearing of nice music and seeing nice objects and nice pictures, etc. So basically everything that we speak of in this material world, all our enjoyment is associated with only these five tanmatras, five sense objects. So once we experience any amount of enjoyment with one of these five, we develop attachment. We want to have more and more enjoyment. That is called Sangha or Raga. We develop intense attachment to have them more and more. We want to have them more and more. For the entire life, we want to have them for our enjoyment. That is Sangha. Sangha means desire for sense objects. And Asanga means the opposite. Detachment from sense objects. This is the weapon because it can destroy the desires. Sangha keeps us in this material world. Asanga takes us out of this material world. So Sangha or desire binds us in this material world. Asanga, the weapon of detachment, liberates us from this material world. The tree is tightly rooted, Suviruda, with secondary roots, Moolam, which are nothing but the strong impressions or desires which we develop in the human species. As long as we continue in our human species, we have so many desires, and every desire will manifest in the form of next life. So with this strong weapon of detachment, we should actually stop all the material desires so that we will not take birth once again, in that sense. Separating the tree from oneself after it being cut, one should seek out the base for the treasure. One should seek out that padam which is situated above the root, above everything else, above Satyaloka. One should look for that object which having attained one does not attain. Yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuya. If one who is fortunate enough to understand what is this Tat Padam, which is located above Brahman, he who having cut the tree of samsara enters into this Tat Padam, that person will never come back into the tree of samsara. For that person, the tree is dead. For that person, the tree is completely destroyed. That's why Lord Krishna says that Yasmin Gata Na Nivartanti Bhuya. Having gone there, having attained that Tat Padam, one will not take birth again in this material world. Therefore, one should seek it out by one sadhana, such as hearing and chanting, obtained from my devotees. Therefore, everyone should try to understand about the truth and try to search out for the treasure above the road and obtain it by executing sadhana, beginning with hearing and chanting. About this hearing and chanting, we come to know only from the devotees. So that's how Lord Krishna indicates this. One should search him from whom the long standing actions of samsara has spread out by the process of bhakti. So this answers the question about where does this samsara manifested, from where this samsara began. So here in this verse, Lord Krishna mentioned that yata pravrittir prastha purani. Pravritti means continued actions. So from this samsara of continued actions has began from him only. One should search him from whom the long standing actions of samsara has spread out by the process of bhakti. So how one should practice the process of bhakti? One should always contemplate like this. I surrender to that person who is the cause of all, who is the cause of samsara, who is the beginning of everything that is there in this material world, who is Adi, from whom the universe appeared long ago. So as it is mentioned that nanto nachadir, we can't understand the beginning of this universe, this material world. That's why it is said that prastha purani. When it started, we don't know. A purani universe, this is purani universe. So, but let me surrender to that person, the source of this universe. The person who is the cause of this universe, surrendering to whom samsara is destroyed, is myself, known as Lord Krishna. So though Lord Krishna is talking him as tam tat padam, tameva, adyam, purusham, etc. So many things he is mentioning, but that person which I am calling him as tat padam or the treasure above the root is actually myself only, Lord Krishna, which Lord Krishna indicates at other places in Bhagavad Gita in 10.8, wherein Lord Krishna says that aham sarvasya prabhava mattam sarvam pravartate. There he told that I am the source of everything that is there in this material world. Because of me, everything is operating. And in 7.14, Lord Krishna also mentioned that though you who take shelter of me, shelter of my lotus feet, will be able to overcome the influence of three modes of material nature. Wherein actually Lord Krishna mentioned that Devyesha gunamayi mamaya durataya mam evaya prapadyante mayam yetam tarantite. Those who take shelter of me, they will actually overcome the influence of Maya. And in 15.6 also, Lord Krishna mentions same thing. Yadgatva na nivartante taddama paramam mama. So having gone there, one will not return. So this is how like connecting verses in relation to this verse. So this is about the explanation about verse number 3 and 4. So if some of you have any queries, you don't have to wait till the end. You can type in the chat box so that we can discuss immediately. So because the subject matter keeps changing verse by verse and eventually you may forget, so etc. So having mentioned about the process of bhakti, starting with Shravanam Kirtan, which we understand from the devotees. So now that is for devotees, but for others they need to practice their own sadhana, etc. So, but what kind of sadhana one should practice? How one should practice one sadhana? And what kind of person is qualified to obtain that tat padam, that treasure which is located above the root? That is being described in the next verse. performing bhakti, what qualities do the people attain? So they attain that goal. By practicing bhakti, what kind of qualities people will attain? So that we understand that by seeing the qualities, by observing the qualities in those people, that we can understand that these people are qualified to go back to Godhead. What type of people attain the goal having surrendered to the Supreme Lord? Who are those people who are qualified to go back to Godhead? That is being described in the verse number 5. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha आध्यात्म नित्या विनिवृत्त कामा द्वन्द्वैर्विमुक्ता सुख दुःख संज्ञे गच्छन्त मूढा पदमव्ययं तत्. So these are the qualities are kind of an indication to us. Okay, these people are on the way back home, back to Godhead. In whomsoever we can see these qualities, we can understand that they are on their path back home, back to Godhead. So what are the qualities? Every word has deep import, and every word indicates one of the important qualities, attaining which informs us that that person is on the way back home, back to Godhead. So here you can see, here kind of a demarcation if you take. So whatever qualities mentioned below in these lower steps, they actually bind us in this material world. Attachment, pride, false prestige, greed, lust, ignorance, anger, envy. All these qualities actually bind us to this material world. But these qualities which are there in the steps which are leading to Vaikuntha, they actually indicate of our journey back to Godhead. Acceptance of spiritual master, study of the Veda, austerity, sense control, spiritual knowledge. And these things are indicated in the current verse. So it indicates that Nirmana. So here verse says that Nirmana moha jitsanga dosha. Nirmana means they should be without pride, which is generated from respectful treatment. Every day morning we recite Chaitanya Shishtastakam, and one of the verses it says that Amanina Manadena. Manadena means giving respect to everyone, and Amamanina means not expecting any respect for oneself. So Amanina or Nirmana, there is no expectation of mana from anybody else. That is the quality of Nirmana. They should be without pride, which is generated from respectable treatment. Even our co-devotees, they always give us respect. But because they are respecting us, we should not think ourselves to be something great, something supreme or something like that. It is their nature. They are respecting us, not because we are respectable. So like that one should feel. So that is the understanding of Nirmana. Hare Krishna. Am I audible now? So,
Yes, Prabhuji, loud and clear.
Yeah. Kindly increase your respective device volume. And those devotees who are using mobile, they can actually start the speakers, so you will get more volume. So then, Nirmoha. They should be free from absorption in what is false. One should be free from false absorption. Generally, we'll have false absorption based on our birth in a particular family. So we say that I am so and so person, I am the son of so and so person, I am the grandson of so and so person. We always speak about ourselves in relation to our family, or sometimes we speak about our qualification, our knowledge. We identify ourselves with all these things, our profession, and then we express our illusion, saying that I am this, I am that, I am this, I am that. But they are all actually not the identities of Atma. They are all identities of body only. So one should be freed from that false absorption in the identity of the body and mind and intelligence, etc. And then Jitasanga dosha. They should be free from affection for people and objects of this world. Because the affection toward the material objects or material people leads to sangha, leads to the development of desire to have their association for rest of eternity. That will actually binds us in this material world. So thus one should be free from the affection for people and objects of this world. Instead, one should develop affection for the people who are on their path back home, back to Godhead. So that is how it is indicated here. They should daily consider the nature of their own Atma and Paramatma. Adhyatma Nitya. Every day one should contemplate about the nature of Atma and nature of Paramatma. Thus, one can guard about our illusion towards our body and mind and intelligence, etc. Every day when we hear about Atma, 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 we are actually careful about our body and mind, the demands of our body and mind. That's how it is mentioned. That's why Srila Prabhupada mentions in every purport that our sadhana should include chanting and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam without fail. Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya. Harer Nama Anukirtanam. These are couple of phrases which Prabhupada always uses in his purports. So they remind us that we are not the body and we are Atma, and the purpose of life is to become Krishna conscious. So like that. So this is called Adhyatma Nitya. And then Vinivritta Kama. They should be free from material desires. So we should not cultivate material desires. Instead, we should cultivate spiritual desire. So what kind of spiritual desire we should cultivate? Lord Krishna again and again talks about that one spiritual desire we should cultivate as we are living in this material world. So there are many verses in the chapter 7, chapter 8, chapter 9, chapter 10. Lord Krishna actually indicates about that one spiritual desire we should actually cultivate. I will take one or two references. Chapter 9, verse number 22, where it says that Ananya Chintayanto Mam Yejana Paryupasate Tesham Nityabhayuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. Ananya Chintayanto Mam Yejana Paryupasate. Without any other second thought, one should always worship me, having me as their primary thought. How one should worship and why one should worship? Tesham Nitya Abhiyuktanam. Nitya Abhiyuktanam. With a desire to become one of my eternal associate and with a desire to serve me in my spiritual abode by becoming one of my eternal companion. With that desire, cultivating that desire, one should actually perform bhakti. One should actually perform Ananya Bhakti. So this desire Lord Krishna actually mentions many places in the Bhagavad Gita that we should cultivate. Wherever Yukta word comes in the Bhagavad Gita, that is actually indicative of this meaning. We should always cultivate that desire, that we should desire to go back home, back to Godhead, become an eternal associate of Supreme Lord and serve Him in the spiritual abode, in that capacity. Even if you take one more example from chapter 10, I think this is chapter 10, verse number 10. Tesham sarata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yenamam upayantite. Tesham sarata yuktanam. Those devotees with a desire to become one of my eternal servants, eternal associates and serve me in one of the four primary rasas, Dasya, Sakya, Vasalya and Madhurya, I will enable their journey back home, back to Godhead very fast. So that's what Lord Krishna indicates here. Tesham sadata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yenamam upayantite. So here also Lord Krishna actually indicates satata yuktanam. So like this word yukta comes many places in Bhagavad Gita. So at all those places, Lord Krishna is indirectly indicating that develop the desire to come to my spiritual abode and become my eternal associate and serve me in Dasya, Sakya, Vasalya, Madhurya, etc. Even Arjuna also repeats the same thing in the first verse of the 12th chapter. Evam sadata yuktaye bhakta swam paryupasate. So your devotees with a desire to become one of your eternal associates perform bhakti, and others perform jnana and yoga. So I want to know which one stands where. So pros and cons about the process of bhakti and process of ashtanga yoga. So that is the question in the 12th chapter. But wherever this word yukta comes, that is actually indicative of cultivation of spiritual desire. That one desire all of us should always consciously cultivate. And then Lord Krishna goes further. They should be tolerant or free from disturbances, from opposites such as heat and cold, which are the causes of the dualities in the form of happiness and distress. Dvandver vimukta sukadukka samnyer. One should be indifferent to the dualities of this material world because they are naturally coming in this material world. As Lord Krishna mentioned in the 2nd chapter 14th verse, Matra sparshasu kaunteya shitoshna sukadukada agama apayino nityas tam titikshasva bharata. Agama apayino nityas tam titikshasva bharata. They'll be keep coming and going. The dualities, they keep coming and going, just like rainy season and summer coming and going. But one should learn to tolerate them. That is what it is. Dvandver vimukta sukadukka samnyer. They should be knowledgeable of the process of surrender. Amuda. They should not remain fool. They should not remain muda. Instead, they should be thoroughly knowledgeable about the process of perfection, about the nature of this world. So, whoever has all these qualities, they are qualified to go back home back Godhead. Adhyatma Nitya indicates those who make a rule of constantly considering about the Adhyatma, those who are absorbed in reflecting on Atma and Paramatma every day without fail. Shunvato Shraddhaya Nityam Gunatasya Swasheshritam Kalena Na Atidirgena Bhagavan Vishate Hrudi. Those people with putting little endeavor every day without fail, with utmost faith, those who hear Krishna Katha, Kalena Na Atidirgena, not after a very long time, matlab in short time only, Bhagavan Vishate Hrudi. The Supreme Personality of Godhead will manifest in their heart. So this is indicated in Srimad Bhagavatam 2nd canto 8th chapter verse number 4. Parikshit Maharaj himself repeats his understanding after hearing from Sukadeva Goswami. Whatever he had heard from that, he explains his understanding. So he who cultivates all these, whoever cultivates all these qualities, in whom these qualities are manifested, we can understand that they are on their way back home back to Godhead. So this verse indicates about the necessary qualifications required for one to go back home back to Godhead. Now the question comes, Abhi, it's okay. What is the problem by staying here? I want to stay here for some more time. Why you are always telling me, pestering me about go back to Godhead, go back to Godhead, come to my spiritual abode, come to my spiritual abode. Why you are telling me about all these things? What exactly is there in the spiritual world? How does it look like? What are the qualities, characteristics and attributes of the spiritual abode? Can you please tell me? So somebody might ask this question. So in order to answer that, Lord Krishna speaks next verse. What are the qualities of that object, Tat Padam, which is supposed to be attained, which is there above the root of the Ashwatha tree? What is that Tat Padam? Na tad bhashayate suryo na shashanka na pavaka yad gatva na nivartante taddama paramam mama. So this verse talks about the various attributes or the main attributes of the transcendence, the main attributes of the treasure that is located above the root. Tat Padam. So that is explained in this verse. The meaning is very simple. That Tat Padam na bhashete suryo. It is not brightened by sunlight, na shashanko, not by moonlight, na pavaka, not by fire, not by diya, not by the fiery lamp, etc. And another quality of this place is yad gatva na nivartante. Having gone there, one will never come to this material world. One will never take birth in this material world. Tad Dama Paramamama. That Dama is mine. So that's what Lord Krishna briefly describes the attributes of that Tat Padam. So there is no sunlight, there is no moonshine, there is no light coming from the fire, and there is no lightning also. Light coming from the lightning. So in that way we have to see. That supreme abode of mind is not illuminated by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. So what does it mean? Talking in terms of sunlight, moonlight, and the light of fire. What does it mean? What Lord Krishna is trying to indicate to us by mentioning these things? The words sun, moon, and fire do not light it. The meaning of this word, this sentence is Natat Bhashete Suryo Na Shashanko Na Papaka. The meaning which Lord is indicating is means that Tat Padam, the treasure, is self-revealing, self-dependent, and self-sufficient. So, in the material world, in order to see something, we need sunlight. Either directly or indirectly, we need sunlight. In the daytime, everything that we see is because of the presence of sunlight. Or another transformation of the sunlight is electricity bulb. Something like that we can take. So throughout the day, in order to see anything, we need sunlight. And in the night, in order to see anything, we need moonlight. If you consider in a place where there is no electricity from that place point of view, in order to see anything in the night, we need moonlight. But moonlight does not stay all throughout 30 days. During full moon day, there will be full moonlight. And as you go backward or ahead, the moonlight is gradually reducing. And on those days, there is no enough moonlight. How can we see things? By having a lamp made up of fire. A kerosene lamp or diesel lamp or a coal lamp, like that. So thus, the sun, moon, and fire will act for revealing something in this material world. They help us to see some objects in this material world. But in the spiritual world, there is no need of sun, moon, and fire in order to see anything, because that place is self-revealing. That means it is self-illuminated. It does not need any additional source for illumination. And self-dependent. For the sustenance of the people in the material world, we actually depend upon sun, moon, and fire. All our sustenances depend upon sun, moon, and fire. By the presence of sun, the water is evaporated, and when clouds are formed, eventually rains will come. By those rains, the plants, the trees, the vegetables, they grow. And the fruits and vegetables become nourishable by the moonlight. It is only by moonlight the vegetables are actually nourished. And then when you pluck the grains from the plants, the vegetables from the plant, before eating, we actually need to cook them. That is by fire. So our sustenance in this material world primarily depends upon these three. The rains come by sun, the plants grow and give juicy vegetables and juicy grains by moon, and the cooking is done by fire. So our dependence is there on these three things in the material world. But in the spiritual world, these three are not required. Their sustenance does not depend upon sun, moon, or fire, because they don't have to. There is no need of rains. There is no need to grow grains. There is no need to cook grains. The entire spiritual world is self-sustained. So in that way. And now the another quality of the spiritual world is self-sufficient. There is no deficiency in the spiritual world. But in the material world, our sufficiency or our prosperity can be accomplished by the process of worshipping the higher authorities or serving the higher authorities. According to Vedic culture, we have this concept of runa. Devarshi bhutapta nanam cha pitrunam nakinkaro nayam runicha rajan sarvatmanaya sharanam charanyam gato mukundam parihitta kartam. So any person, whoever is born in this material world, in fact, this is a verse spoken in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto. One of the Navayogendra speaks about this verse. And this verse is also quoted by Srila Prabhupada in the first chapter, where the Varna Sankara is mentioned in the first chapter, almost at the end of the chapter, one of the last verses. This verse is being quoted. If anybody wants to see this verse, you can actually refer to one of the end verses of the first chapter. There actually this verse is mentioned about Lupta Pindodaka Kriya. In one verse where the Lupta Pindodaka Kriya is there, in that purport, this verse is quoted by Srila Prabhupada. So where it says that Deva Rishi Bhuta Apta Nranam Pitrunam. So as soon as we are born in this material world, we are actually indebted to the 6 kinds of people. The Devatas, because they are providing all the natural resources for us in the form of rain, wind, sunlight, etc. etc. Rishi, through the Rishis, the Vedic culture, the Vedic knowledge is preserved and propagated, and we are indebted to them because they are giving us the knowledge about things in their proper perspective. Deva, Rishi, Dranam, the society in general, all the people surrounding us, they're actually helping us develop our personality, develop our character. Without them, if we are born in a no man land, we are no different than animal. Everything that we learn from our school teachers, friends, relatives, and uncles, and all the media, etc. etc. They are all Nranam. And Devarshi Bhuta Apta Nranam. Apta means relatives. Our family culture we develop from our close relatives, our own family members, our parents, our uncles, and other relatives, etc. They are all very close to us. They all give us very good culture, our family culture, etc. etc. Devarshi Bhutapta Nanamcha Devarshi Bhuta. Bhuta means all the other living entities other than the human beings. For our sustenance, we actually depend upon many living entities. Like for example, cows. We need milk. We need ghee. We need butter. We need so many other things. We need cow dung, cow urine from cows. We get all these things from cows. And for sleeping nicely, we need woolen rug, etc. That we get from sheep and goat, etc. etc. Like that, many examples we can take. And we need birds also for cross pollination so that we can get food grains. So like this, so many things are there. Every living entity has something to offer us. So we have Runa for them also. And finally, Pitrunam. And just by being born in a particular family, we inherit the family culture, the family wealth. That is coming because of our forefathers, our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents. And we also have a Runa for them. So in order to become self-sufficient, we need to worship all these 6 category of people. But worshipping these 6 category people depends upon sun, moon, and fire. People do Sandhya Vandan morning, afternoon, and evening, offering Argya to sun god. They perform Sandhya Vandan, they perform Gayatri, etc. etc. And they worship, they perform Chandrayan Vrata, this Vrata, that Vrata, wherein the worship of sun and moon is in there. And finally, the worship of all the devatas is accomplished by the performance of yajna. By performing yajna, we say that idam Indraya Swaha, idam Namama, idam Chandraya Swaha, idam Nama, idam Varunaya Swaha, idam Namama. By performing yajna, and we accomplish all the worship of all the devatas. And traditionally, in order to perform any samskara in the family, in the grasa order, yajna is there compulsory. Yajna is one of the important element in any samskara. We may not see this performance of yajna in all the samskaras, but at least we see during vivaha. In vivaha samskara, yajna is there. At least, I see many places. In other samskaras, people may not perform yajna, but in vivaha samskara, without fail, they perform. But otherwise, yajna should be performed under for all samskaras, like Jatakarma ceremony on the day of birth of the child, and Namakarana ceremony, Shikamandana ceremony, Aksharabhyas ceremony. For every ceremony, yajna is there. In fact, in our ISKCON temples also, for every festival, after performing Lord's Abhishek, in the inner chambers, the yajna is also performed for the deity. When in front of the deity, there is small yajna is also performed. That is also mentioned by our previous acharyas in Satkara Saradipika by Gopal Bhatta Goswami. It is Sanatana Goswami. It is clearly mentioned that yajna is also there, one of the activity in the worship of the Supreme Lord. For every festival we see here, yajna, small yajna is being performed after the abhishek of the Utsava Murtis. So like that, our sufficiency depends upon the worship of devatas. So that worship is accomplished by sun, moon and fire. So for everything in this material world, we need the help of sun, moon and fire. But everything in the spiritual world, there is no need of sun, moon and fire. And sometimes by sun, moon and fire only we are troubled in this material world. But the spiritual world is devoid of the misery such as heat and cold. So there is excessive heat because of sun sometimes. Especially in India we have overheat during summer. And because of the moon there is intense winter. And the place where you are, all of you are there, Atlanta, in winter there is intense cold. And many places, last time when I visited in the month of January, wherever I went it was snowing only. So that is because of the moon. The snowing is caused by moon. The heavy sunshine is caused by sun. And fire. When fire is under control, we can cook our food. When fire goes out of control, it will cook us, it will burn us, it will boil us in that sense. So though these three are meant for our sustenance, our nourishment, sometimes when they go uncontrolled, they are the cause of our misery. But in the spiritual world, there is no need of these three things for their sustenance, and there is no need of these three things for the, there is no misery caused by these three things. So thus, the spiritual world is separate from the material world. And if you really understand this verse, why Lord Krishna is taking the example of sun, moon and fire? Because we are familiar with these three from the time of our birth all the way up to our death. Even our journey ends with fire. Our dead body will be burnt in the fire. So in that sense, so we can actually relate with these three. So Lord Krishna talks about the spiritual world in the relation of these three things with which we are constantly associating in this material world. Thus, sun, moon and fire, the means of our sustenance, but there is no need of them in the spiritual world. So this is the meaning of the first two lines. And the next two lines it says that Taddama Paramam Mama means that light. Here Dama, the meaning of Dama is explained. Dama can mean light. So it is indicated below. Dama can mean light or place or form. In Sanskrit, the meaning of Dama is, according to circumstance, we can take it as a light, we can take it as a place, we can take it as form. Here we will take three. So Tad Dama, when Lord Krishna says that Tat Padam or Tad Dama, what it is indicating? Tad Dama Paramamama indicates that light. Light indicates Brahman, Brahma Jyoti. Or that form. Form indicates the form of Paramatma. Or that place. Place indicates Vaikuntha, my abode, my spiritual abode. So Dhamma can be considered according to the person who is practicing the respective process. The Jnani may consider it to be Brahman. The Yogi may consider it to be Paramatma. A devotee may consider it to be the abode of Bhagavan, that is Vaikuntha. So Tad Dhamma Paramamama means that light or that form or that place which is non-material, which is completely spiritual and which is beyond material senses, that is Paramam, which illuminates or reveals everything else. That Taddama is self-revealing, self-illuminating, and in fact it reveals the light of sun, moon and fire. Whatever light we get from sun, moon and fire, it is actually coming from that Taddama, that Tat Padam, and which belongs to me. It is Mama. It is not somebody else's. It is me. The abode is mine. The Pama Paramatma is mine. The light of Brahman is also mine. So kindly understand. Having obtained either Brahman or Paramatma or Vaikuntha, one will never return to this material world. Yadgatva na nivartante taddama paramam mama. So this is this verse is from Shvetotara Upanishad, Kata Upanishad, and also Shvetotara Upanishad. It says that natatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhanti kutoyam agni tameva bantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasha sarvamidam vibhati. The sun does not shine there. Natatra suryo bhati. There is no need of sunlight. Na chandra tarakam. Nor do the moon or stars shine there. Nema vidyuto bhati. Nor does lightning shine. Kuto ayam agni. How then can fire burn? When all these things are not there, then what is the need of fire? So, tameva bantam anubhati sarvam. When he shines, all of these shine. What will shine? The sun shines, the moon shines, the stars shine, the lightning shine, and also Agni also will shine. Through his light, all things shine. So because he has light, all those things with which we are familiar with, they are also having light. That is understanding. The Lord in describing the pada indicates himself. Having attained it, one do not return. That pada is my sarupa, my form, which is full of all excellence. Taddama paramam mama. That pada is my form, my excellence. My excellence is Brahman, my form is Paramatma, and it is my abode, my Vaikunta, Madhama. So like that, Lord in a way describes the qualities of Tat Padam, describes the qualities of Tat Dama, describes the qualities of the treasure which is there above the root of the Ashwatha tree. So this verse talks about the place where one will go, having performed bhakti, having cultivated the qualities mentioned in the previous verse. And now the question comes, Arjuna might ask, or any reader might ask, okay, that is fine. Here is the material world which is compared to Ashwatha tree. There is spiritual world whose qualities are mentioned in this verse. But why I should go there? Let me stay here in this material world. What is the problem? Why you are always telling me, come there, or go there, go there? What is the reason? Why should I go there? Why you are bothering me again and again, always disturbing me? Let me continue my life happily here. What is the problem? Why are you telling again and again, everywhere, in every verse of the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, you are telling that go there, come there, come there. So these are all unlimited variety of spiritual universes. So that is being answered in the next verse. What is the reason that Lord is telling us to go to that Padam, go to that Taddama, come to spiritual world? That is being mentioned in the 7th verse. Who is that Jiva who, crossing the samsara by devotion to you, attains that place? Who is this Jiva supposed to go to the spiritual world? Why he should go? What is the reason? For which Lord Krishna says, Mamaivamsho Jivaloke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana Manasastan Indriyani Prakrutistani Karshati. So this verse talks about why that Jiva, by practicing bhakti, crossing the samsara, should go to Tat Padam, should go to Tat Dama, should get that treasure, obtaining which one does not come back again. So that is indicated in this verse. So here let us have some technical discussion. So it is now 8:40. We will discuss this half of the first line of this verse, and then we will open for question answers, and then if time permits we can go ahead. But this is one of the very important verse. If we understand this verse, Sambandha Jnana becomes clear. In one sense, about Sambandha Jnana is further elaborated in the later part of this chapter, in verse number 16, 17, 18. But here also there is wonderful indication, wonderful understanding is there. So let us see what it is. So here it says that Swamchas chasta vibinnamsha iti devadyam ishyate vibinnamsha tu jivasyat. The meaning of this one verse from Varaha Purana is that there are two types of amshas of the Supreme Lord, known as Swamsha and Vibinnamsha. Swamsha cha ata vibinnamsha iti devayam dviti dvedayam ishyate dvi dayam ishyate. So Swamsha and Vibinnamsha are the two amshas of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Swamsha is own expansion, Vibhinnamsha is separate expansion. So Vibhinnamshastu Jiva Syat. Vibhinnamsha is the Jiva. All the variety of Jivas are called Vibhinnamsha. And all the variety of Vishnu forms, Narayana forms, Govinda, Vasudeva, Narayana, Rishikesha, Madhava, they are all different Vishnu forms. They are all called as Swamsha. All those forms of Bhagavan that are there in the spiritual world, they are all called Swamsha. Though they are all different, but they are all having the same quality, that they are all Swamsha. But Jivas, though we possess the same qualities of the Supreme Lord minutely, but we are separate particles. Thus, all the Jivas are called Vibhunnamsha. And that Jiva, who is Vibhunnamsha, is part of me, the Supreme Lord alone. Mama eva amsha. In this verse, Lord Krishna is telling that Mama eva amsho Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. So we are explaining the meaning of this particular line. The Jiva, who is called Vibhinnamsha, is part of me. Mama eva amsha is part of me, the Supreme Lord alone. Mama eva amsha means he is part of me alone. He is not part of Brahma, who is not part of Lord Shiva, who are also lords, but not the Supreme Lord. So people generally in India, I mean many places also, may, if they are knowledgeable, they say that, I mean all the devatas are same, all the forms of the Lord are same, there is no difference in worshipping them. But here Lord Krishna says that Mama eva amsha. All the living entities including Brahma and Shiva, they are all my own amsha only. All the jivas are not an amsha of Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva. In fact, they are my amsha. So that is being indicated. That is the meaning of Mama eva amsha. Then Sanatana. Just like I am eternal, the jivas who are my part, who are my amsha, they are also eternal. They are not produced at a certain time like sky temporarily confined by a pot. So here the acharyas are attacking the Mayavada philosophy. It says that when the word Lord Krishna mentions Sanatana, that means the jivas are also as eternal as me. They are not created at a certain point of time, and their illusion is not destroyed at some other point of time. So the creation and destruction of separate entity, according to Mayavada philosophy, it is like making a pot. So this is one of the important philosophical point. So let us discuss a little bit about this. Here it says that this is actually the idea of idea of Shankaracharya. The conception of Jiva is a temporary subdivision of Brahman, like a sky in pot. They indicate that the understanding of Mayavada philosophy is that the sky is everywhere, but if you take a pot, there is sky outside the pot, there is sky inside the pot, and we may say that sky outside the pot is separate from the sky inside the pot. But what Mayavada philosopher says that we talk about the sky inside the pot to be separate because there is a pot. When the pot is broken, the sky inside the pot will merge with the sky outside. The both become one. So this is one of the philosophical point of Mayavada philosophy. In order to inform us that the living entity and Brahman both are same. Because of some illusion, because of the part, we are actually currently having a separate identity. When the part is broken, when the illusion is broken, the Jiva becomes one with the Brahman. So that is the understanding that they may say. So, but they say that this separate entity has begun at a certain time and it will have an end. Just like a part is created by the potter at a certain time and is broken at some other time. So this is their understanding. So on this there is some charcha. Some, the proponents of one soul, Ekatmavadis. The Ekatmavadis are those who talk about Aham Brahmasmi, Sarvam Kalo Idam Brahma, and Brahman. I am one with Brahman. So they always speak about this Ekatmavada philosophy. They say that the proponents of one soul compare a portion of Brahman, the Jiva, to sky in a pot or reflection of sky in the water. So they have two kind of principal elements with which they describe this. Mayavada philosophy. The sky in the part as separate entity, when the part is broken, it becomes one with the ether. And they also say that the if the part contains water, so in that water we can see the reflection of the sky in the night, especially in the night, we can see the reflection of the sky. But when the part is broken, when the water is dispersed, the reflection is gone. The temporary identity is gone. Like that, they mention it. Eka eva vishuddhatma tasya vidya parichinnasya tasyam pratibimbasya va nanatmatvam. So how do they explain this philosophy? The pure Atma is one only. Whatever jivas are there in the entire universe, eka eva vishuddhatma. Everything is one only. Everything is one with Brahman. But it appears as many. It appears as you and me and other living entities, either by division or by reflection. The division is parichinna. There is something called as parichinna vada, and reflection is pratibimba vada. Va nanatmatvam. So this is the difference. It appears to be many by parichinna vada or pratibimba vada. This is because of the ignorance. So how they explain this pratibimba vada and parichinna vada? Akasham ekam hi yata gatadishu prutak bhavet. Just as the one ether becomes separate entities in many parts. When we have so many parts, we say that here in this part the ether is different, in this part ether is different, in this part ether is different. Like that we talk about. As long as the part exists, the separate identity for the ether exists. Tatatmaiko hi anekasta. So the one Atma becomes situated as many. Just like one ether becomes many ethers because of the presence of so many parts, the one Atma becomes many Atmas because of the presence of our gross body and subtle body. So, and another example is, just as the sun is reflected on the substratum of water. So when there are multiple parts, when they are filled with water, all the parts are filled with water. In the night, when you see, every part reflects the sky. The same sky is reflected in every part. So we say that here is one reflection. There are multiple reflections that appears. If there is moon in the sky, and there we see so many moons in the so many parts. So like that, it appears to be many. But if you break all the parts, the different ethers become one with the main ether. The different reflections, they unite with the original source. So that was the philosophy of Mayavada. That's how they explain. A portion of the Brahman becomes separated by the intervention of Antakarana. Antakarana means our subtle body, Man, Buddhi, Ahankara, Chetana. As long as we have Man, Buddhi, Ahankara, Chetana, we always have separate entity. Because of them, we say that now I am human, now I am a male, I am a boy. Later on, we say that I am animal, I am this, I am that. Later on, we say that I am Devata. Later on, we say that I am Asura. All this identity comes because of Antakarana, because of subtle body. With the destruction of the part, now they say that with the destruction of the part, or with the destruction of the reflection in the water which is there in the part, the sky returns to its pure state. The empty part has sky. The sky in the part will be united with the sky outside, or the reflection in the water in the part will reunite with the original source. Thus the sky returns to its pure state. Similarly, with the destruction of Antakarana, or the reflection or the subtle body, Jiva, who is the part of the Brahman, attain the state of pure Brahman. So this is their philosophy. When you break the part, when you disperse the water, then there will be no separate sky in the part. There will be no separate reflection in the water in the part. So this is their philosophy. They say that by the practice of jnana, we can actually dismantle this independent identity by the presence of subtle body. Then we all become Brahman. This is their philosophy. But they fail to understand one important thing, which is actually explained in the second chapter, verse number 11 to 13. That is, the theories of Paricheda, that is limitation of Brahman. The Brahman is limited to a small part, just like sky is limited to a small part within. And Pratibimba, reflection of Brahman. The sky is reflected in the part filled with water, which try to explain the division of Brahman are defeated by the explanation given in Bhagavad Gita 2:11 to 13. In 2:11 to 13, actually Lord Krishna dismantles all these philosophies which Mayavadis come up with. Lord Krishna hinting, and all our acharyas have actually elaborately explained. So in the verse number 11, actually it's Lord Krishna says that asoshan anasosam prajna vadamsha bhashate gatasu nagatasunta nanasoshanti pandita. Wherein Lord Krishna says that you are not the body. You are actually the Atma. This Atma is different from the grass body after death, from which the life hairs will depart. Gata asun, from which the life hair departs, that is called grass body. So you are not the grass body. Agata asun, even after leaving from one body, the subtle body accompanies along with the Atma. Prana accompanies along with the Atma. So agatasun means the subtle body. You are also not subtle body. And but you are Atma. So in the first verse, that is 11th verse, Lord Krishna says that you are not the grass body, you are not the subtle body, you are not the pranas, but you are Atma. Then the question may come, whether my Atma and his Atma and your Atma, they are all same. Arjuna is asking that my Atma and my dear Lord Krishna, your Atma, and the Atma of Duryodhana, all these three Atmas are same. So Lord Krishna mentions in the next verse, they are all not same, they are all different. You are different, Duryodhana is different, I am different, all the kings assembled in this battlefield, they are all different. Natvevaham jatunasham natvam neme janadipa nachaiva nabhavishyama sarve vayam ataparam. So the difference between Atma and Paramatma and difference between one Atma and another Atma is indicated in the verse number 12. Then in the 13th verse, he clears the subject matter. How can I understand that I am different from this body? So that is mentioned about, you are the same person. You see the transformation in the body. You see the transmigration from one body to other body. But you does not change. You are the same person. So that is being indicated in the 13th verse. But all these verses actually indicate that the separateness between Atma, the grass body and subtle body, and the separateness between one Atma and other Atma, and also the separateness between Jivatma and Paramatma. Here Lord Krishna is Paramatma from that point. So everything is different. So one cannot be divided from other. That cannot be possible. So indirectly, how these two philosophies have been dismantled, Parichedavada and Pratibimbavada, the limitation of Brahman and reflection of Brahman. The limitation of Brahman can be dismantled by telling that Atma cannot be cut into pieces. The original Brahman, which is Satchidananda Swarupa, it is completely pure conscious, and Atma cannot be made into parts. Atma cannot be divided, just like the ether. The Mayavada philosophy says that it appears to be separate when it is confined within a part. So that separateness cannot be possible from Brahman, because Brahman is transcendental, it is purely conscious, it is purely Chitkana, it cannot be divided into small Atmas, and they cannot be recombined back with Brahman. That is not possible. So Brahman is existing always, and the small Atmas are also always existing. They are always eternally existing. The division is not at all possible. Thus, Parichedavada is dismantled. And then Pratibimbavada. So it says that when we say Brahman is Nirguna, which has no material qualities, when we say that Brahman which is actually having no form, no attributes, no qualities, no characteristics, and we say that, the philosophy says that, Pratibimbavada says that it is reflecting in the water in the pot. If it has no material qualities, how can it reflect in the water in the pot? Only if it has some qualities, if it has some form, that form and that qualities and that attributes can be reflected in the water. When a tree has particular shape, the shape can be reflected in the water. If tree has no shape, how can we see the reflection? So this dismantles the Pratibimbavada philosophy. So here they say that when Akasham Eka, when this verse mentioned that, it is talking about the night sky, in which we have moon, in which we have so many stars, we have so many constellations, etc. All those, we have so many clouds also. All those things will be reflected in the water body below. When we see in the water body, we see the moon, we see the clouds, night clouds, we see the stars, we see the constellations, everything we see, because since they are there in the sky, we are able to see them. Since they have form, we can have form here. We also have form here. So that is how the understanding is mentioned. So finally it indicates that Brahman is the possessor of Shakti, the Jiva. What the reflection that we see in the water, the substratum of the water, that is Jiva. But the original source is Paramatma. The understanding is there is moon in the ether, that is Paramatma. From that moon they are coming unlimited moon rays. One ray is indicative of one Jivatma. When that ray falls on the surface of the water, we will be able to see the reflection of the moon. The reflection on the surface of the water is actually due to the moon rays that are coming from the moon to the surface of the water. The moon rays are actually Jivatmas. So as long as the Jivatmas, which are actually emanating from the Paramatma, they fall on the surface of the water. That means they take shelter of the water. That means when Jivatma takes shelter of the material body, which is made up of gross body and subtle body, we actually perceive the activities of Jiva in this material world. If there is no via medium of water, we can't see any reflection of the moon. But reflection is not because of the moon, but because of the moon rays that are coming from the moon to the surface of the water. So if we stop the reflection, the moon rays, if we send them to some other place, we can't see the moon's reflection in the water. So that's how it is indicated. So the moon is Brahman, the moon rays are is Shakti. They are Jivas in that sense. Thus they are called as part. Thus the Jiva exists in a particular limited place, separate from the Lord but similar to same degree. The moon and moon rays are sun and sun rays have same qualities, but the magnitudes are different. The moon rays or sun rays are only representing a minute particle of the sun or moon. Thus, Mamai Vamsho Jiva Bhuta Ji Sanatana. The group of Jivas are actually my part and they are eternal. This is the meaning of this particular line, the first line. We have only discussed about Mamai Vamsho Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. There is one more word, Jiva Loka, that I have not discussed yet. So finally, I just want to come to one concluding point based on the discussion of the last previous 6.5 verses. Lord Krishna is telling that since all the Jivas are my own Amshas and they are all eternal, they are not supposed to stay in the temporary material world. Instead, they are supposed to stay in the eternal spiritual world. That's why in every chapter, in every verse of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, I am indicating that all of you please come to spiritual world. You are not supposed to stay here. You are supposed to go back to Godhead. So this is the crux of the subject matter. Because Jiva is an Amsha of the Supreme Lord, and since Jiva is eternal, and Jiva is the direct son or daughter of the Supreme Lord, they are not supposed to stay in a foreign land. In a material world, which is actually temporary, which is completely miserable. Lord does not want us to stay in a foreign land. He is always expecting us to come back to spiritual world. That was the understanding which Lord Krishna trying to impart to us through these 6.5 verses. And the final understanding is, His Grace Sutapa Prabhu gives acronym to this chapter 7, as a chapter 15. The acronym which he gave is HOME, HOME, HOME. So H is explained from verse number 1 to 7. M is O explained from verse number 7 to 11. M is explained from verse number 12 to 15. And E is explained from verse number 15 to 20. So we will also discuss about them. And H stands for home or hotel. So in these verses, Lord Krishna describes about the material world, comparing it to a Ashwatha tree and a banyan tree. And he also talks about the spiritual world, talking about its attributes, its qualities, its transcendental nature, etc. etc. And the Jiva, currently who is there in the material world, supposed to go to spiritual world. That is the intention of speaking these verses. So now we have to understand among these two, which is home and which is hotel. Whether spiritual world is home and material world is hotel, or spiritual world is hotel or material world is home. That we have to understand. If we have that understanding, then we can make right choice and we can work accordingly. We can endeavor accordingly. If we accept that spiritual world is our eternal home and material world is our hotel, so better wind up our business in the hotel and go back home back to our eternal home. So when we go to hotel, when we have money, when we want to have some picnic or some excursion or some pleasure trip, we go to hotel, pay a lot of money and have some fun there and come back. We don't make hotel to be home. So one simple in a what you can say in a humorous way we can discuss like this. So what happened? One day one jiva went back to spiritual world. So all the spiritual, all the residents of spiritual world welcomed him, and they asked him, "So where all you went? What all the places you visited?" Then that person starts explaining about the material world. I visited so and so material world. So and so things are there. So and so things are happening, etc. etc. He talks about the material world in a fascinating way. So one of the living entities in the spiritual world kind of inspired to go to material world. Then he approached the Supreme Lord. He said that, "Oh, my dear Lord, I want to go to this material world once. I want to spend some time there and come back. I don't want to stay there, but I just want to spend one day and come back." So Lord gave permission for that jiva for one day. You go there, you stay there for one day, you travel around and come back. I have paid for you for one day stay in the material world, in the hotel of material world. But when jiva comes here, he enjoys more than permit. He stays more than the permitted tenure. Instead of one day, he stays little more than one day. Instead of spending whatever one is supposed to spend, he spends more. He accepts more. So for his overstay, for his over expenditure, the jiva is supposed to pay back the bill. So Lord only gave permission for one day. Since he stayed for more time, so in order to pay back the bills, the hotel manager puts him in cleaning the hotel, washing the pots, etc. etc. So many other activities in the hotel. But while paying back the previous expenses, in order to sustain, he also has to accept food. He also has to stay somewhere, for which I has to pay more. So like that, paying and working, paying and working, paying and enjoying, paying and spending, it goes on, it goes on. Only the moment when he stops spending, he stops enjoying and clears off his debts, then a person can come back to spiritual world. And this is like in a humorous way we can see. So this is what Lord Krishna is explaining in these 600 verses, explaining what is our eternal home and what is a hotel meant for a temporary visit. And by doing what, we can actually go back to our eternal home. So this concept of home or hotel, what should be our eternal residence, and how we should obtain that is being described in these verses. So it is 9 o'clock according to Indian time, standard time. So we'll wait for a couple of minutes. We'll take some questions if you devotees have. If more questions, we'll stop with this, and then we'll continue from verse number 7th, second line onwards in the next meeting whenever we do. So now I would like to understand, devotees, if you have some clarifications, if you have some doubts, if you want to share something which you have heard in relation to these verses, so please.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Pavaneshwar Prabhu, for such a brilliant class. Dear devotees, if you have any questions, please go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Anything which is not clear, please. And anything which you like, anything it appears that you have heard first time, you can also share that.
So Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, I have a question. See, we say that this when liberation happens, there are a couple of ways that liberation can happen. One can become one with Brahman. So that is also one type of liberation. But then my question is, what happens to that soul? Or is it a real liberation? I know it is not, but in what way it is not, and what happens to that liberation where he is united with the Brahman, become one with the Brahman? What happens actually?
Prabhuji, my little understanding is, based on what we hear and what we read. Generally, the Mayavada philosophers, they say that we want to become one with Brahman.
Right.
But according to Vaishnava philosophy understanding, even after entering into Brahman, even after getting Sayujya Mukti also, the Jiva, the individual independent Jiva, will never become one with Brahman, will never merge with Brahman. Even in Sayujya Mukti, even after entering into Brahman, the Jiva will still have their separate existence. They will never become one with Brahman. The Brahman liberation, the Sayujya Mukti is liberation in Shantaras. It is a peaceful coexistence. Coexistence means Brahman is there, one Jiva is there, second Jiva is there. Whoever attained Sayujya Mukti, they were all existing in the Brahman platform, in the location wherever Brahman is there, the intermediate space between spiritual worlds and material worlds. They were all existing there in a peaceful atmosphere. Generally, this kind of liberation is anticipated by or aspired by the practitioners of Nishkama Karma Yoga, then Jnana Yoga, then Ashtanga Yoga. One example we can understand is generally the yogis in India, in the Himalayas, we hear from His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj Journey Home book also. The yogis enter into some remote cave. They enter deep within the cave. They sit in the Ashtanga Padmasan and they perform Ashtanga Yoga, Pranayama, etc. etc. They can continue to do that for many years, being situated in that Yoga Mudra, in that Padmasana. That is one way we can understand a glimpse of in a peaceful state. They are simply experiencing Brahmananda. That kind of situation, the situation in the Brahman. Because that is their sadhana and similar kind of goal they will obtain. Even in Brahman also, they will be there independent, separate from the Supreme Lord, separate from the Brahman. And they are in the peaceful attire, experiencing Brahmananda. They have no difficulties because of the body, because of the mind, etc. Won't be there. They are completely in the peaceful state. This is Vaishnava understanding, Vaishnava philosophical understanding.
So if they are in peaceful state, what happens? I mean, they just stay like that forever?
That's all. As long as they want to stay in that state, they will stay there. If they want to go ahead and enter into Vaikuntha, they can go ahead. Or if they want to come to material world, they can come down to material world. It's all up to their free will. There is no force from Brahman or Bhagavan. And I'll tell you one more thing. Many times we have heard that with respect to Mayavada philosophy that even though they go to Brahman, since there is no activity, they will fall down. So there are two types of impersonalists. Some of the impersonalists are called as Mayavadis. Some of the impersonalists are called as Brahmavadis. Brahmavadis are those who actually understand the existence of the absolute truth in three features: Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. They accept the absolute truth in three features, but they are attached to Brahman feature. So they want to get Sayujya Mukti. They respect Bhagavan, they worship Bhagavan, even to get Brahman, even to get Sayujya Mukti also they worship Bhagavan. And they enter into Brahman, they stay there in Brahman as long as they want. But the Mayavadis, who say that the material world is made up of Maya. All the living entities are made up of Maya. Even Vaikuntha is made up of Maya. Even the form of Bhagavan is also made up of Maya. That's why they are called Mayavadis. According to Mayavadis, only the Brahman is the one and only absolute truth. The entire material world, what we see is Brahman transformed in the mode of ignorance. All the living entities, you and me, all the way up to Devatas, we are all transformation of Brahman in the mode of passion. And all the avatars such as Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, they are all transformation of Brahman in Sattva-guna, in the mode of goodness. Thus, all the things in this world, the entire universe that we see, and all the living entities all the way up to Brahma, and all the avatars that keep appearing in this world and performing various pastimes, they are all made up of three gunas of the Maya. That's why everything is Maya. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. The Jagat, the material world, and the living entities in the material world, all the avatars that appear in the material world, they are all Mithya, they are all Maya. That philosophy is Mayavada. And they say only Brahman is Satyam. So that is complete hardcore Mayavada philosophy. And Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 2, the Devatas were offering prayers to Lord Krishna, who is there in the womb of Mother Devaki, in the Garbhasuti. One of the prayers they say that Ye anya arvindaksha vimukta manina tvayashta bhava davishuddha buddhaya haruya krishrena param padam tata patanti yado anadruta ishmadagraya. Ye anya arvindaksha vimukta manina. Ye anya arvindaksha vimukta manina tvayashta bhava davishuddha buddhaya. Vimukta maninas, they consider that they are liberated. They consider themselves to be liberated. Tvayeshta bhava avishuddha buddhaya, because with their avishuddha buddhi, impure consciousness, and aruya krishrena param padam tata, even though they may think that they have entered into Brahman, they have gone to Brahman, param padam tata, they have gone to param padam, according to them Brahman. Patanti yada, they fall down from there. They fall down from their imagined situation of entering into Brahman, because anadrita ishmadangaraya, they never gave regard to your lotus feet. They always derived your form to be material. They always spoke of your transcendental form to be made up of sattva guna, because they have never worshipped, they have never respected your transcendental form, my dear Lord, my dear Bhagavan. They actually fall down from their imagined liberation. So this is the destiny of hardcore Mayavadis, who never accept Bhagavan to be transcendental, Bhagavan to be eternal, Bhagavan to be real. But Brahmavadis get Sayujya Mukti without any problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dear devotees, does anyone else have any question for Pavaneshwar Prabhuji?
There are no queries means there are two possibilities. Either you have understood everything or nothing you have understood.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, thank you so much. It was such an amazing class.
There is a question by Mataji. I'll just unmute her. Mataji, you can unmute.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Koti Koti Dandavat Pranam. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai. How nicely you narrated all the one by one sloka and what is our behavior, how we have to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Hare Gauranga, Koti Koti Dandavat Pranam to your sincere seva. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Pavaneshwar Prabhu, I think. Yeah. Yes,
Yes,
Pavaneshwar Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, I was saying, Prabhuji, thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation, and we look forward to you continuing from verse 7 onwards and complete the whole chapter, all the 20 verses. And I will coordinate with you regarding the next session. Next, devotees for joining, and we will all say express our gratitude to His Grace Pavaneshwar Prabhu for such a brilliant, scholarly, and easy to understand presentation on this very beautiful philosophy. So thank you very much, Pavaneshwar Prabhu. His Prabhu ki
Jai. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for this opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Pavaneshwar Vaishnava Krishna Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you, Pavaneshwar Prabhu. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.